Over a quarter of the season gone in the English Premier League, 59 bets in the book. We're running at 4.94% return on investment after another winning week. We're back with more picks as we head into November. This is Betting Weekly Premier League show. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, while Nigel Seeley and Jack Wright are here, as always, to highlight the best plays in the EPL. Nigel, just touched down in Vegas, jet-lagged or wide awake?
I feel absolutely terrible. I've done a 10-hour flight. I've had about 2 hours kip, and I've got the worst cold you could possibly imagine. But the sun's shining. There's a backdrop there of Paris and the lakes at the Bellagio. But I feel absolutely terrible. And the idea of speaking to you two about 8:05 in the morning really doesn't really do much for my mood, actually. But
have you got that violin down?
This tiny little. I don't know where it is. It's in a matchbox somewhere. It's called the tiniest violin in the world. We are back in Blighty, Nigel, where we've been battered by Storm Kieran here. A lot of rain forecast as well. Jack, conditions aren't great here. I mean, just from a betting point of view, a lot of rain, a lot of wind around. Should we be focusing on unders? That's the sort of usual stat when situations like this arise in the UK.
Doesn't really matter about the weather, does it? It's just the month we're talking about. That's all we need to know, and remember the rhyme. But
I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to bring it up this early in the show.
No, hang on. I'll bring it up. Don't you worry about it. I'll bring it up.
What?
Dan Roebuck, right? He tweeted out something the other day. Oh, last season, like, what a load of old rubbish. Didn't do any hard work, just done it off his little computer that he has. He pays money for some. Didn't actually put the graft in. Just got it. Yeah, last season, it was 26 matches in November. We're going to a World Cup last season, and only 6 of them cashed under. Oh, yeah. Brilliant, Mr. Roebuck. We don't work really hard to look at those 26 matches.
Yes, and I did 21 and 20, backing up your stat. You didn't get me on the first sentence.
10 years, my old friend. Last 10 years.
Go on,
184 matches.
Go on.
In 11 seasons, 184 matches have gone under 2.5 goals in the month of November. Okay. 165 have gone over. That's in the last 10 years prior to your Mickey Mouse season you make about the World Cup. 52.7% under 2.5 goals. And if you eradicate the Man City matches and take out the Liverpool matches and all the matches where the dross were playing each other, the actual line is much, much higher. Also, as well, as you say, the weather is horrendous. You know, not for me, mate. I'll be down the pool in 10 minutes. Don't you worry about me. I'll be fine. I've got someone here to rub sun cream lotion all over my back while you're looking at your stats. Anyway, under 2.5, 52.7%, my friend. So don't you worry about that. All you got to remember is the goals go down in November.
Do you know what? I've been to Vegas a few times. I've done these long haul flights, and usually when I go on the plane, I don't get my calculator out and all the Premier League games for the last sort of 10 years.
We had nothing to do at the bar.
I might have a little cocktail. Do you know what I mean?
Champagne filled. So I was sitting there just chatting to a few guys, and there's nothing to do. Laptop on. Mrs. was having a sleep on a lovely bed. You don't get up to walk around in your cattle class, my old friend.
6 matches covered this week from the boys, 4 11 a.m. Eastern kickoffs, and we're going to start with Brentford against West Ham, an 11 a.m. Eastern kickoff on Saturday. At Brentford plus 105 here, West Ham plus 250, the draw plus 270. Brentford have won all 4 of their Premier League games against West Ham. And Nigel, similar vein for you for the first pick of the show.
Yeah, I'm going with Brentford. Not usually something I like to do because I think the public will be looking at Brentford after the back of that win against Chelsea and thinking, they're sort of captured bettor's imagination against the win against Chelsea. But they're a side that I can't really call in or out. But there's what you said there about their record against West Ham is phenomenal. They've won every single match that they've been back in the Premier League against West Ham. They look an opponent that West Ham don't like the style of play that Brentford play. We know what they expect. They're fast out the traps, high tempo. Thomas Frank is a master in these kind of home matches. But then I broke down a stat last week in the London derbies that going into that match last week that Brentford were unbeaten in their last 13 London derbies. I think it's 13. It's now 14 matches unbeaten in their London derbies. And already this season, they've played 4 matches in the Premier League in a London derby against Tottenham, Fulham, Crystal Palace and Chelsea, and they're unbeaten in those 4 matches. I think the timing to play West Ham is bang right. And they had a massive, massive win in midweek against Arsenal. And again, I think the public perception is that when you have such a big win that you might sustain that form. West Ham are the most inconsistent side in the Premier League over the years. They're a side that you can call brilliantly against a big club like that cup win, get themselves up with the crowd. And then when you expect them to win, they don't perform. So I think this is a good match for Brentford. I think the timing is perfect with West Ham. I think that match took a lot out of them, both physically and mentally. And you remember it was a good, strong lineup that played against Arsenal. Virtually the same players we're playing again in this match here. Brentford have had the extra rest, and I think with the record that they have, their home form this season is very, very good. Brentford has been good since they returned to the Premier League. They've only lost once in 5 in the Premier League at home, and I think here that record of London derbies, there was something that this Brentford side and Thomas Frank like about these high tempo matches. I think they get out of the traps fast, and also West Ham have a Europa League match in midweek against Olympiacos. It might not be important, but that group is very, very tight. And there's 3 teams that have a good chance of going through in 2 places. And we saw last year how much the European success meant to them. And I think they might look at that game as well. A lot of football in recent weeks for West Ham. Their league form coming into this match hasn't been great. And I don't think they'll be able to show the same kind of performances against that Arsenal did in what a 3-day turnaround and an early kickoff from a Wednesday night as well. So Brentford for me at plus money. Surprised to see them plus money, plus 105. I like Brentford.
Brentford to beat West Ham. Interesting thing on London derbies, isn't it, really, Jack? Because there is an awful lot of them. And I think people know the traditional ones, but the fact that there are so many games between clubs in the capital, it is a thing for bettors. And it's something that we should all take notice of when assessing these matches.
Yeah, you're right. That obviously the London derbies takes up a big chunk of a season for the likes of Brentford and obviously all the other London clubs. And they set the tone from that first game back in the Premier League, didn't they? When they really rattled the feathers or rattled the cage of Arsenal that night and made everyone sit up and take notice. And then they've gone on some great performances against like the bigger clubs. They do seem to get an extra 5 or 10%, which is huge at this level in these types of games against those either the bigger clubs or the London derbies. So absolutely, yeah.
Let's move on to Burnley against Crystal Palace here. Burnley plus 185, Palace plus 163. They are favourites to win at Turf Moor. The draw plus 220. Nigel, this is the first of your unders bets. It is November after all. I wanted to wait to this particular segment in the show to mention that, but we've talked about it already. Talk us through your unders play here.
Well, I mean, Burnley have had a terrible start to the season, and particularly at home at Turf Moor. The 3 clubs at the bottom of the Premier League, the 3 clubs that got promoted, unless something changed rapidly, I just can't see how these 3 survive. It's a huge match for Burnley. It's a huge match for manager as well, Vincent Kompany, who's under huge pressure. I think if you don't win this match, I think he's in big problems there. If you look at Burnley's home record, they played 5, lost 5 in the Premier League, but their opposition has been tough. Manchester City, Aston Villa, Tottenham, Man United, and Chelsea couldn't have really asked for a tougher set of fixtures for them at home. So this is the first one that they've got where they've got a realistic chance of winning. And, the Burnley fans will be really, really high. Palace, their hopes will be really high, sorry. Palace here, they look dreadful going forward. I had a bet last week on the Palace Tottenham game, but I bet Tottenham minus 0.75, minus 1.25, 0.75, sorry. And we had a half a push and half a win. But how we never cashed. I know how we never got the clean sweep last week from my picks. I know it's been dreadful the early part, but we hit back. Ironically, time of the month as well, coming into a very important month. But I think the thing is, you've got to remember here as well is that I just think that they just got no goal scorer, Palace. Absolutely terrible. I mean, if you look at that match, they only scored 1 goal in their last 6 matches. And that was against a Tottenham side that were 2-0 up, took their foot off the gas and hit them with a consolation goal. In the 5 matches previous to that, they haven't scored. No Eze, no Sahar. Obviously, he's gone. Eduardo Ayew, are they Premier League quality who's going to get you a lot of goals? I just don't think so. And I look at this match here and I think it's all about the home side. I think Burnley will try to rough it up. I think the conditions, if there is a lot of rain around, I think that will suit Burnley. They're a much more physical side than Crystal Palace. I think that will determine the kind of match we see. But just from geographically, I only look at the weather in Las Vegas. I mean, the south side of the swimming pool today is very, very warm, about 82 degrees. The north side of the swimming pool is a bit shadier, but in the high 80s. You over there in the wind might tell me whether the weather in north of England is going to be like, but I don't. I'm only concerned about pool conditions here today. But I think in the north of England, I think it's more the weather's going to be at the south. So I'm not quite sure whether the weather's going to have a huge impact on that. And if it does, that helps Burnley. I think Burnley probably tried to be tongue at the back, try to get a set piece and win it 1-0. And Palace, Roy Hodgson, I think the way he plays, I think he'll go here and try to be a 0-0 or a 1-0 result. We saw a match very similar at the start of the season where Palace went to Sheffield United and ended, I'm sure it was a 1-0 win for Palace. I think it's that kind of game again. I'm going to go for the under 2.5 goals. It's relatively short in terms of betting that we do on this show, -142. But I think if you want to have a little bit, if you want to go with my theory and think the goals are going to go under, I think maybe if you want to be a little bit more speculative with your bets, you might want to go under 1.5 because I feel that 1 goal here will win it. I wouldn't like to say which way. It's a huge match for Burnley, not so crucial for Crystal Palace, but Crystal Palace just do not offer a goal for it. So I'm going to go under 2.5 goals here at -142.
Just very quickly from both of you, Burnley to go down +135. Jack, is that a play or a wait and see, or do you think they'll get shorter?
They'll get shorter if they don't pick up the 3 points here. So we keep seeing them restricting as far as price is concerned. So, I fear for them, to be honest with you, because I just think they've had too many changes. They're trying to play too much of an expansive game of football, which we've seen sides that have come up before fail to do. And, I wouldn't be surprised if Company, if he's not pushed, will walk away from it because he wants to try and protect that reputation a bit as well.
I think that is a bet, really, Dan, to be fair, +135. And I'll tell you why I think it's a bet. Because who else is in it? Honestly, let's be honest with you now. How many teams are going to be relegated from the Premier League? We know 2 spots have gone already. Sheffield United have gone. Luton have gone, right? So really, who else is in the battle?
Bournemouth and Burnley, do you think? I mean, it was a big win for Bournemouth, wasn't it, last week?
I can't see Everton, unless there's the only reason Everton can go down with that points deduction, which is what you're betting against there. But really, you're looking at +145 in what is effectively a 2-runner race as far as I can.
Well, you could back them both. I mean, we're going to talk about Bournemouth with Jack in just a second. I mean, Burnley are +135 to go down. Bournemouth are +150 to go down.
Yeah, I mean, but the only thing you're betting
Luton to stay up over Burnley.
Yeah, but the only thing you're betting against there is that the fact that there's this points deduction that then could really cause us big concern. So that I think that's probably in the back of my mind thinking. But if you look at it, really, how many teams in the Premier League at this current time, the way they are, could get relegated?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think you're down. I mean, Sheffield United have gone. Luton are interesting. Just very quickly, since you've raised it, Jack, you think Luton might stay up or just finish ahead of Burnley?
Yeah, I think the 3 that are there at the moment will go. And pretty much throughout the season, at the start of the season, I felt the same thing. I just felt that Luton's style of play was going to be different and cause teams problems sort of in that bottom half, especially at home where they can get at them and pick up some points. And looking at the moment, it's going to be no kind of points total to finish 4th bottom. These 3 at the bottom at the moment just can't get any kind of win. Bournemouth got some tough games coming up as well. So don't rule them out. I'd make it a 4-horse race right now, taking the Everton points deduction out of the equation. Say they get away with it at least or whatever for the time being. It's down to them 4 for me. I can't see anyone else. A couple of sides have surprised me how they've done pretty well. Wolves, Everton, and these 4 are cut adrift for me.
Just one thing, Dan, before we just move on from that game. I just wanted to make a point to Jack, really. I mean, we look at the Championship. Jack follows the Championship a lot closer than what I do. I'm a Queen's Park Rangers fan. I've given up following the Championship this season. But, I mean, these teams that come up, like Burnley, he was praised last year, Vincent Kompany, for changing the way that Burnley play under Sean Dyche. And everyone was going, it's a breath of fresh air. Well, you're beating, all due respect, you're beating Stoke 3-0 at home. You try to play that kind of football that they're trying to play week in and week out against teams like Manchester City, Aston Villa, Liverpool, Tottenham, you're going to get smashed. You need to go back to more physical, make turf more a very, very tough place to go and make it really hard. The fact they're playing football and entertaining but getting beat 4-2, 4-1, that's no good in the Premier League. All these argument brilliant. They have to go back to basics.
Yeah, my argument was always that in the Premier League, Burnley are trying to play a style of football that other teams play a lot better than them, with better players, with more resource than them. And also, when you make a mistake in the Championship, you might get away with it, or you'll certainly get away with a lot more than you do in the Premier League. Make a mistake in your own around your own penalty area, game over. You're conceding 2-3 every week, and you're not going to be able to outscore sides, and that's where they're falling short. And that's why I thought Luton knew their limitations, would have more of a chance, albeit a slim one.
Well, one team that rarely makes mistakes, Manchester City, they take on Bournemouth this weekend. It's another 11 a.m. Eastern Saturday kickoff, and City a minus 1115, extremely short to beat Bournemouth, who you can back at 25-1. City not involved in the League Cup in midweek. Bournemouth played okay against a rotated Liverpool side, but were still knocked out. Jack, you've got to play in this one, and it focuses on goals and specifically the opening 45. Talk us through your play here.
Well, just for that, I was going to say, give a big up to Nigel, the fact that we talked about him about to go on a good run, and he obviously did last week, and unlucky not to get a complete full clean sweep. But now he's talked about pool temperatures, and that I'll probably gloss over that a little bit more. But yeah, it was a good turnaround. Obviously, I didn't have the best week last week, so expect to see him go on a run now, as I say, especially this time of year. But as far as City are concerned, I found this a tough slate this weekend, to be honest with you. Looking for it, there was a couple of picks that Nigel went quite early with his picks, and I'd kind of like the look of on those, but I didn't want to double up this week, so I've gone elsewhere. I looked at this one as a fixture, and I was like, "There's no way we can get a bet on this. It's pretty obvious what's going to happen. Man City are going to win. They're going to win comfortably, but with the handicap so high, obviously the odds completely, really, really out of the question to really play. I was surprised, but I did have a little delve into it, and one did catch my eye. And yeah, I've gone for over 1.5 first half goals in this one. It's at minus 122. For those of you who want to be a little bit more aggressive, this is in essence really a play on City to score 2 goals in the first half, or 2 or more goals in the first half. If you do want to just go City, that's plus money, plus 110. Not a bad play at all. I wouldn't pay anyone off it, but I've gone a bit safer because Bournemouth have been to Liverpool and Brighton and took the lead in both those games. So we're keeping that on side with this particular play. City, obviously, we know what they're like. They're phenomenal, especially at home. They've just got an incredible record there. Had a little wobble, didn't they, a few games ago with Rodri being suspended. They lost those 3 games that he was out for, but they bounced back in style. Haaland's now back amongst the goals. He had gone 3 games in all competitions. Shock horror without scoring, and he's now come back from the international break and got 5 goals in 3 games. So all looks well again with that Manchester City machine. So how do we get this on side? Well, we'll say it's over 1.5 first half goals. Looking through City's recent record, they've won their last 14 in the Premier League at home. 39 goals to 9, the aggregate scoreline over that period of time, and 21-4 is the first half scoreline. So shows you the goal power that is there. This season, of course, they played 4 at home and won 4 at home. They scored 10 goals in that process and only conceded twice. But over 1.5 goals has landed in 3 of those 4 games. In fact, the last 3, the first one being Newcastle at home. Newcastle kind of went and shut up shop looking to try and nick a point there, and that ended 1-0. But still in the first half, that goal was as well. But all the others have kind of cruised over that line. They've scored in 3, including taking the lead. So as far as Bournemouth is concerned, they've scored in 3 of those 4 away games this season, but all 4 of those away games have seen over 1.5 goals in the first half as well. So the combined total here sees 7 of the 8 games, respective home and away, see this actual bet cash. As far as the record between the 2 sides is concerned, it's not a surprise to see that City dominate that as well. They won 4-0 at the Etihad last season against Bournemouth. They won 4-1 at Bournemouth, and there was over 1.5 goals in both first halves of both those fixtures as well. The last 7 meetings between the 2 sides, 6 have seen over 1.5 goals in the first half, including each of the last 4. So it looked a really strong way of getting Man City really on side in a very, very one-sided fixture. We've talked about Bournemouth obviously at length this season already about how poor they are, and Areola obviously got a big win last week, but yeah, back to reality with a big bang, I assume, this week.
Yeah, I think it's a really good play, and you could even split your stakes, as you were pointing out, if you just want City to cover it with a plus money play as well. But get Bournemouth on side, like that one. Sheffield United versus Wolves next up. This is another 11 a.m. Eastern kickoff on Saturday. Nigel's got a play here. Wolves, I think, have been a bit better than one or two people have thought they were going to be this season. They are minus money, though, away to Sheffield United at minus 107. Wolves unbeaten in 4. Nigel, talk us through your play here.
Well, I was quite shocked by the price for this. I was quite shocked that under 2.5 goals was minus 105. You're not probably shocked that my selection's under 2.5 goals being the 3rd of November. But I was shocked by the price. I thought minus 105 was very, very low. I thought, if you compare minus 142 for Burnley Palace, minus 105 in this game. And I think what it is, the reason why it is minus that price is because everyone doesn't expect Sheffield United to score because they're shocking. And there may be an over-expectation of actually how good Wolves are. I was at the Emirates last week, and I know you were commentating on the match day at the Sheffield United game. I don't think I've seen a worse team in the Premier League for many years.
They were poor, weren't they? They were bereft of ideas.
They're absolutely nothing from an attacking perspective. They offer absolutely nothing. I know it's very different going to the Emirates compared to playing at home against Wolves, but from what I saw from that match, we were talking about Luton challenging Derby's unwanted record of the lowest points ever, but this team here could easily do it. I mean, they could easily do it. They're not going to. The manager's in a job purely simply, really, because I just don't know if anybody else would want to take the job. I mean, if you're a manager in the Championship, why would you want to move to there and then get relegated and have all that disappointment of players leaving? But usually, when a team comes up from the Championship, you can say, "Oh, there's 2 or 3 players who are good enough. Oh, they're good. They can play at this level." There was no one in that team. Not one. I know I've only seen one match, but there's not one player there that I thought to myself, if I was an opposition side, I'd have anything to fear about. They look totally, totally out of their depth. And my only problem with Wolves is that Wolves, to me, I've said on this podcast many times over the last 2 seasons that we've been doing it, Wolves are a team that I can never read. When they're underdog, they tend to do really well, Wolves. They beat Man City. They're a side that raise their game as the dog. When they're expected to do well, they let you down. And it just looks to me, this match at minus 105, it's a potential banana skin for anyone betting Wolves on the road at minus 105. And I've gone for the tried and tested under 2.5 goals here because I think Sheffield United offer nothing. Wolves have had a great resurgence in recent weeks under a very good manager. I mean, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. He didn't get the credit last year at Bournemouth. Jack had him down as a potential relegation this year. So did I. But he's transformed them again, playing some nice football, scoring goals, 2-2 draw against Newcastle. But again, it goes back to another thing that I mentioned the other week. When a team has a big, heavy defeat, you want to be with them on the unders the following week. They work so hard. We saw it with the 8-0 defeat, and then the following week, the unders cashed at West Ham. Could it be the same here? They put 10 men behind the ball, went to the Emirates, tried to get a 0-0. As soon as Arsenal scored, just how many? 5, 6, it could be 4, whatever. If Arsenal wanted to score 7, they would have scored 7. Sheffield United offer nothing. This one is a little bit different, but I just think at the price, minus 105, given the way that Sheffield United are playing, they'll look at this match as well and think, again, very similar to the Burnley match. Their fixture list has been tough. They'll be thinking this one is a real chance of getting something. And Wolves at minus 105, I just can't trust them. So I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go for minus 105. No wins in 6 for Sheffield United. Well, only 1 point in the Premier League this season. And Wolves have got a good unbeaten run. Is it the worst start ever for a side in the Premier League? Is that worse than what Derby did? Or it must be.
I think it might be. I don't know, actually.
I can't remember any team having a worse record than that.
Be worse, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
I actually had Wolves earmarked for a win in this one before Neto got injured, and that put me off putting them forward here. He's been involved in 61% of their goals this season, either scoring them or assisting them, which then led us down the path of the under 2.5 goals. Nigel obviously pulled the trigger on it, and absolutely looks a fantastic price.
When you look at the betting, I mean, if someone's Burnley minus 142, and I think the minus 105 again is because of what we've seen this season when he's laid goals. There isn't many underbetters. I know we joke about this at November, and I'm only joking myself. I'm not, But I do think the market has gone crazy, and this time. The other thing about this time of year as well is the cup competition start. It's a lot of football, especially in the lower leagues. The pitches are heavy, boggy. Things change, and I just think at minus 105, if the season had gone a little bit differently with goals, this match could quite easily start years gone by at like minus 160, even minus 150, minus 160, like 4-6 or something like that. In years gone by, Sheffield United Wolves at home. In a game like this, minus 105, a little bit under even money. You'd absolutely bite your hands off for that price. And I think at minus 105, I think it represents a little bit of value again.
Two more games to look at. We go to Sunday and Monday. We've got plays from Jack here. First of all, Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern, Nottingham Forest against Aston Villa. Forest plus 325. They've got that good home record. Unbeaten, of course, this season in the Premier League. Villa minus 115. We're playing on the money line here, Jack. And I know you've got Villa right pretty much every single time that you've put them up. And it's Villa again for you.
Yeah, it's a little bit of if it ain't broke, don't fix it scenario, isn't it? I'd look for again. Like I said, it was a tough slate for me, and I put Villa here. I've been strong on Villa all season, and the more you dig into the stats, the more you're impressed by what Emery's doing at the club. And they haven't let us down, have they? They've been scoring goals as they've done everything we've expected them to do. They've had a couple of dodgy results, but in games that you'd leave. And this one, yeah, I get it. Forest's home record certainly last season was really strong. But this one comes a little bit down to me to where I'll put these two sides. I think you get these little checkpoints in the season, don't you? 10 games in now is a point where you go, right, where are our ratings? Wolves, we've talked about. I had down as a bottom 3, bottom 4 side. Certainly, I'll probably put them around about mid-table now. Villa, maybe 6th, 7th. I've got them maybe a place or two higher as well, but certainly a lot closer to the top 4 than I thought. And Forest, one of those sides I think have regressed for me. They were probably a mid-table, lower mid-table side. Now, I'd put them maybe 2 or 3 places above the relegation zone currently on how they're playing. The home form, as I said, kept them up last season. We talked about it a lot. This season, unbeaten still. You look at it on the face value, you say that's not bad at all. But then when you look who they've played the bottom 3, the newly promoted sides who we've already talked about, saying how atrocious they are and are likely to be sinking without a trace. So you not been impressed with how they've gone about those. We've got a win early on in the season when they beat Sheffield United. That's now looking even a worse and worse result as the weeks go by, that they scraped a 2-1 at home to them. They needed a late equaliser to come back against Burnley. They needed an equaliser in the other game, which was against Brentford, and they tossed away a 2-goal lead against Luton. 2 goals for them, to another draw. So that they're not really. I was going to say pulling up trees. Then that would have been a slip. I didn't actually mean that, but yeah, that wasn't a scripted one. But they're just not really been. Yeah, sorry. Here we go again. I'm in trouble. But look, I think that Forest just not been impressing me at all, and Villa the complete opposite. Really been on the game. And what is different from this week compared to a lot of weeks for Villa is, of course, they've got no European action and they didn't have any cup action either. So they've had an actual week to prepare for this one with Emery on the training field. And we know how highly rated he is. And that's another plus point for them. So, I'm taking them there to go and get the win. So we've talked about their record in the past. That they're actually up there now as far as since Emery's been at the club, which is, I think, 35 games now. As a top 3 side. Only Man City have picked up more points in the time that he's been at Villa. So a phenomenal record. And the final piece of that, I just think that I'd make Villa slightly shorter favourites than what they are here. So a little bit of value when you consider what prices everyone else has gone off against, the same kind of sides that we've seen them play. I just had a check through last season as far as the odds that we had. Those kind of top 7 or 8 sides going off at, and all these sides went off shorter. Arsenal went off at minus 152, Brighton at minus 169, Man United at minus 143, Newcastle at minus 135, Man City were minus 300, Liverpool minus 278, and Chelsea were minus 159, given how they played last season as well. So to get Villa on side here, a decent enough price to say it's a bit of value, I think, but I think I'm going to stick to my guns and keep siding with Villa, ride that train on. And I think that it's a tough fixture, but one they can come away with another 3 points of how they play with the firepower they're showing at the moment.
Dan, just one thing before we leave on Villa. I mean, I was looking at the prices to finish in the top 4, and Aston Villa are 6-1 to finish in the top 4. Now, people might laugh at that and think, that Villa, they're going to slip up. But they're not slipping up under Emery. We've got almost this whole season's worth of stats with the 3rd best side. And Tottenham are minus 120 to finish in the top 4. Now, I'll tell you what, if someone said to me, I can have a bet, or someone said to me, I can be the bookmaker and I can take a bet. If someone wanted to back Tottenham to finish in the top 4 at minus 120, you can have that with me all day long. But I wouldn't be happy to take much money on Villa, at 6-1. I don't think there's much between Villa and Tottenham. Tottenham have had a very, very easy run. Very, very, their fixture, now they've played a couple of tough games, but they've played all the teams at the bottom and won, the ones expected. There's some tough games to go. And Villa are underrated. They're a proper underrated team here with an underrated manager. and that's 6-1 to finish in the top four. I mean, I think the top three are taken spaces, aren't they? Man City, you're talking Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. I think they're done. But in the other spot, you got Newcastle, you got Aston Villa, and Tottenham. How can Tottenham be -120? I know they've had a great start and it's doing well, but Villa at 6-1 is a huge price in that market.
I think it's interesting, and Jack pointed out as well, you've got to reassess these teams. And if you believe that Villa are in that bracket, then you look at the prices of previous teams in that bracket, as Jack's done with a play like this, and you think, well, yeah, Villa can win it. I think this is a good play at a shade minus money. That's Forest versus Villa.
Just one other thing about strategy, Dan. Just sorry, I know we're just sort of moving on the subject, but it reminds me of when Leicester won the Premier League. Leicester won the Premier League right over 1,000-1, and the market never changed, never ever changed. And a mate of mine never bet Leicester, but when everybody was cashing out, so when everybody was taking their money and cashing out at sort of like 4-1, 5-1, that's when he said they were the biggest value of all.
But that was the point, wasn't it? There wasn't that many players at 1,000 or 500, but there was significant money into the new year and into Feb and March. That's when people thought, hang on, this is serious value at 4, 5, 6-1.
They were going off in matches like 6-4 away from home, where teams in their position would be like 2-1, -1, -$2, and that is what this Villa price is. This Villa price at 6-1 is a market bet where the public thinks they're not going to keep going, but they're up against the team that are probably the most perennial team to throw it away from in Tottenham in terms of, I mean, I'm joking aside. I mean, 2 seasons ago, last season, when Santos was the manager, he was manager of the month for the first month, and he was sacked in month 2. I mean, it happens at Tottenham. It does happen, and the fixture. I know it probably won't this time, but Tottenham is a play now where the public are getting stuck in and think they're a real contender, and Aston Villa way underrated at the prices.
Well,
Spurs as well. Well, no, they've got no Europe, but they lose a couple of their key players, and what's underneath that, is a bit thin for me. And we're talking about what key players we're talking about, but
well, speaking of Spurs Chelsea Monday night in the UK, 3 p.m. Eastern. Nigel, I think you'll still be in Vegas for this one potentially, so you can watch it where you are. Tottenham plus 112 here, Chelsea plus 235, draw plus 265. They could be third by the time they kick off. I don't know if that puts more pressure on them or takes it off. But Jack, once again, we're playing on the money line. What do you like in this one?
Yeah, Spurs win. And again, it's pretty much a price play. We're getting plus money on Spurs. We've now talked about the start to the season that they've had. And whether they can maintain that or not, I think we're probably both of the opinion, or all of the opinion, that it's going to tail off a bit. But I'm not sure it's going to tail off just yet. And as I said, I think for this particular matchup, to get Tottenham at plus money against this Chelsea side, again,
that's the key, isn't it? I mean, the key is Chelsea as well here. It's not just Spurs. It's the fact that Chelsea are extremely inconsistent anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still can't see any, this Chelsea side. I still can't get them on side. I can't go, yes, they're creating chances, but they're missing them. This stinks of what we talked about with Brighton last season, that the XG and all the rest of it, all the data is there to say they're creating lots and lots of chances, but they haven't got anyone to score the goals. They had a decent upturn, didn't they? They won a couple of games. They beat Fulham. Fulham have been stinking the place out really over the last few games. And they beat Burnley. Again, we talked about Burnley, one of those sides that are rooted to the bottom of the table. That wasn't really anything special. Okay, a decent half or so against Arsenal, but they still threw that one away. They obviously had a penalty in that one as well. And then they ended up with a 2-2 draw there. And then, of course, last week, it was more of a reverted to type, wasn't it? They've hosted Brentford. Brentford weren't really at their best on that particular day, and they won quite comfortably 2-0. Soaked up the pressure from Chelsea. Chelsea huffed and puffed. They created chances. They missed chances. Then they made a couple of mistakes at the back, and Brentford made them pay. So, again, that's where I'm going with it. The fact that I think we're at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Yes, they might be third going into this. They were like that a couple of Mondays ago. This is another Monday night football for us, isn't it? And it was Fulham they beat on that occasion, which they needed to win to go back to the top of the table, and they duly did. So they've been there already this season and done it. I think Postecoglou's just got that aura about him at this moment in time that he can take that in his stride. And you'd imagine him keeping a lid on the players, not getting them to get too carried away, not putting too much pressure on them. And I think he's a good deflector. He's one of those managers that that he's taking a lot of the attention at the moment, and I think that pays well for Spurs. The fans are going to be bang up for it. Obviously, they're going to see this as a massive opportunity to beat Chelsea. I've been impressed with Spurs. You can't fail to be from the start of the season. We've talked about Maddison at length throughout the season already as well. Continues to impress. Looks like he's loving his football. He's all over the pitch. Watched him the other night, and he was popping up left back and like deep midfield, forward. He was all over the place, pulling the strings. And I think, again, Postecoglou's looked at it and gone, he's the guy that's going to give the ammunition to Son, who looks back to his best. He's got that smile back on his face as well. We've seen it a lot over the years. He's now got 8 in the opening 10 games. Only Haaland's scored more than him. And he's loving life with say, Maddison there, knowing that he's been able to make those runs, and he's got a player that can pick it out instantly. And we're seeing a real good dynamic between those two. So, yeah, I think for me, looking how Chelsea are playing, I'm expecting more of the same. They might create some chances here. Won't take them. We'll give up chances at the back, and I think Spurs got the players to edge this one. It should be a good game on Monday night.
Plus 112 Spurs win. Poch going back to Chelsea. Nigel, is that a factor? Do you ever look at things like that?
Well, yeah, I was just about to say, Jack's given us a great rundown. We didn't even mention that Pochettino goes back. I mean, I look at this match, and Jack has gone through it. He started the match, but I got a feeling it might be a potential banana skin again. I mean, I don't like these kind of things where we take too much of a chance on teams that have just overperformed. I know probably in the price plus 112 at plus money, yeah. But I think that something sort of reverts back to norm, and I think Chelsea will come good at some stage. I don't know whether it'll be this week, but they're not going to be off the rating they are now. Talk about ratings. I think you'll re-rate. I was looking at Chelsea to win the FA Cup because I think by the time the January transfer window comes in, they can have a centre forward. They could be a very, very different team rated now than what you are, and with their record in the FA Cup. So I always start looking at things. So I think Tottenham could be going backwards. So I could be wrong. I'm not going to change the bet, but I'm not going to query because I haven't even looked at the game. But I'd probably swerve it personally. But I wish Jack the best because of the figures.
Plus 112 is the pick. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I don't know what to make of Chelsea. I really don't, because they can be good in flashes, but young teams are always inconsistent. A couple of final bits of business before we let everyone escape. I can't believe no one has picked Fulham to beat Man United. United are basket cases. You're not, Nigel, not fancy Fulham at plus 240 here? United are all over the place.
Well, so are Fulham. Fulham aren't exactly doing that great, are they? I mean, if they're playing anybody else, I'd rather have taken Man United if they were like playing or Wolves away, and you could get a decent price on Wolves. You would get plus money. The fact they're playing Fulham does concern me. I think if you're going to bet for Man United to get beat, I think Ten Hag is now down to plus 225 to be the next Premier League manager to go 2-1, something like that. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I just think, Jack, that there are players there now at United that know they are going to be there longer than the manager and have stopped playing.
It feels like we've seen his movie before, doesn't it? It seems a repeat, And also, I can't believe we've got a host on here crowbarring his own side into the show. That's interesting dynamic.
Who'll be the next manager there? Is it Nagelsmann to be your next manager?
Well, he's just taken charge of Germany, isn't he? So I
don't know. Well, I don't know who'll be the next manager.
I don't know. Maybe Robbo's still free and fancies it. I don't know.
Well, if he is out, if he does lose a job, then me and you are out of a job with the Ten Hag lookalikes. We'll have to go back to the old job, the Wright Shed Fred Tribute Act.
Last.
What I was going to say, because it is an under show, of course, this was one that I was actually going to put forward as an under. It's a decent price. Because neither of them can score goals. They haven't got the ability to score goals. You looked at the data. I won't go into it now, but there's like loads of data on this one to show that they're just not creating anything at all. But the only thing going against it would be both the defences.
Defences are awful.
The other thing about it, just one. I know we're running about time. Just one thing about the unders there. Fulham along that river. It is freezing when that wind comes in, that rain comes in there. If they are whirling around there, that will make that really, really terrible conditions.
That is one to watch, I think, unders. I'll have a look at that. I want your thoughts. Free $10 play on the big game of the weekend, as far as I'm concerned. Newcastle Arsenal, almost each of two. Plus 185 Newcastle, plus 160 Arsenal, plus 235 the draw. Money line play. If I gave you $10 each, where would it go, Jack? Where would your $10 go?
was $100 last week. What's going
Yeah,
on?
I know.
Did you lose?
Yeah, I did. I can't remember
I've
what you
used the
said
budget
last
to
week.
come out here. I've used the budget to come here.
I tell you what, the European show has got the hot dog of the week, isn't they? And they're talking about that. I think I make Newcastle the hot dog in the Premier League this weekend. I'd have money on them to beat Arsenal. Yeah,
Nigel? Draw, yeah. Arsenal were odd, I thought, against West Ham, and yes, it was rotated side, but well, we'll see what happens. Should be a decent game.
They've been ugly away from home this season, have they? Arsenal,
Yeah.
they kind of got away with it at Chelsea. They've got, they've kind of narrow victories and stuff like that. And Newcastle, we know what they've got about them. But yeah, this could be another unders for me because they've got two strong defenses. So no goals in the Premier League this weekend, other than at Man City.
Best bets for you, Nigel. Your best bet, the three that you put up this weekend.
Sheffield United Wolves under 2.5 goals, -105.
Jack?
I'll go for the City game.
Okay, that's 2 goals or more in the first half. Yeah, I like that one. Nigel, obviously you're a bit under the weather, as you said at the top of the show. You've got a bit of a cold, so I suspect for the rest of the day you're in bed, you're taking it easy. Get to bed about 7, 8 tonight. Just clear your day today and take it easy because there's not a lot to do in Vegas, is there? So.
No, you're absolutely right. You read the plan. 7 or 8. When you said 7 or 8, you reread it as PM. It's AM.
What's your schedule over the next few days? What are you doing? Come on, depress us all.
I'm going to see a show tonight at the Bellagio, a Cirque du Soleil show. Tomorrow, I'm at Stadium Swim with a couple of friends and their partners to watch the Breeders' Cup. Then I'm going to see U2, and then I'm at the Bet Rivers party on Saturday and Sunday.
Do you know what? And he came on the show, Jack, didn't he? At the top of the show, he was all sort of down and didn't want to be here and blah, blah. Just look at him now. You know,
I think we've cheered
Where
him
did it
up.
all go wrong, boys? Where did it all go wrong?
Nigel, Jack, thanks for your company. Good luck with your picks. And that is a wrap for week 11 of Betting Weekly Premier League show. Stay across all our selections and indeed content. Plenty to come from Vegas with Nigel at Because We Win. From all of us for now, it's bye.